Welcome to Positively Skeptical, where we try to mix some humor with honesty and without negativity. We go down the rabbit hole so you don't have to. In a world of pseudoscience and misinformation, now more than ever, the truth matters. So let's get to it. In 3, 2, 1.
All right, welcome to Positively Skeptical, the show that examines claims based on pseudoscience, history, dogma, and any other types of woo. We look at things in a direct but fair way and try not to get negative or dismissive, regardless of how preposterous the topic. That's going to be tough. Today is December 12th, 2017. We're your host, Cory.
Hello.
And I'm Destin. This is episode 2, Homeopathy.
No chuckle this time.
No.
Second take.
God decided to try to smite us. We had a bit of a power lately.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to start off with the origin.
Okay.
Homeopathy is a system of alternative medicine founded by Samuel Hahnemann in 1796. It's from his ideology that like cures like, a claim that substances that cause the symptoms of a disease in healthy people would cure similar symptoms in sick people. He rejected the ideas of bloodletting and things like the Venice treacle and looked for more direct and targeted ways treating illnesses. I always have trouble saying this word. Mithridatium and the related product theriac were both regarded from the time of their original formulations in the 2nd century BC and the 1st century AD, respectively, until the mid-18th century as universal panaceas. Doubts about the efficiency and efficacy of these treatments arose in the mid-18th century, and concerns of the adverse nature of interactions between the numerous ingredients surfaced in Herbin's treatise of 1745. So basically what happened is these two panaceas contain multiple ingredients, like just ridiculous things.
Okay.
And they'd been used since prehistory.
Right.
As treatments.
Okay. So they were kind of like these things will cure everything.
Yeah.
And we just accept that.
That was medicine until the 1700s.
Okay.
And then there was a divergence of that, and there were a few medical professionals, in quotes, of the time that thought of things differently. There was a search for a simple way of healing the sick continued. In Edinburgh, the writer and lecturer John Brown expounded his view that there were only two diseases, sthenic, which is strong, and asthenic, which is weak, and the two treatments, stimulant and sedative. His chief remedies were alcohol and opium.
Nice.
Right? Which, work for everything.
Hell yeah.
In the right dose. In the late 18th and 19th century, mainstream medicine used things like bloodletting and purging, and administered complex mixtures, which one of them is the Venice treacle, which was made of 64 substances like opium, mirth, viper's flesh. They often worsen symptoms and sometimes prove fatal.
Okay.
So what?
Because because they weren't evidence based. Is that, or they just were? This was just kind of the norm, so they did this, and if it didn't work, it didn't work, and if it got better, then great.
Well, if it didn't work, they blamed it on poor mixing or poor components, or it was old and
right. So they were essentially recording the hits and dismissing the misses.
Yeah, exactly. Sense. The opposite of of the science-based way of doing things.
Yeah.
So homeopathy is a treatment based on the use, again, treatment in air quotes,
quote unquote,
of based on the use of highly diluted substances, which practitioners claim can cause the body to heal itself. So how it works, Hahnemann believed the underlying cause of disease were phenomena that he called miasms, and that homeopathic preparations address them. Preparations are manufactured using a process of homeopathic dilution in which a chosen substance is repeatedly diluted in alcohol or distilled water, each time with the containing vessel being bashed against an elastic material commonly in use were things like a leather-bound book.
Okay.
The reason for bouncing it against the thing, the elastic thing, was to put everything into alignment.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So the molecules were in disarray and banging it against a leather-bound book or what have you lines them up.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's
we're not supposed to laugh. Dilution typically continues well past the point where no molecules of the original substance remains. We've seen this happen where I can't remember who it was, took cyanide,
okay,
and did that, and then drank the final dilution, which has no effect.
Which is essentially has no cyanide in it.
Right, exactly. Or James Randi,
yeah.
when he takes the entire bottle of homeopathic sleeping pills.
Yeah, that's
every show he does.
Yeah, there's quite a number of skeptics and science-based or science communicators who have done that now with sleeping pills.
Yeah. Homeopaths select homeopathics by consulting reference books known as repertoires, and by considering the totality of the patient's symptoms, personal traits, physical, psychological state, and life history. Throughout the 1700s and into the early 1800s, Hahnemann gained a fairly large following of acolytes and even some peers. He gathered and published a complete overview of his new medical system in his 1810 book, The Organon of Healing Art, whose 6th edition, published in 1921, is still used by homeopaths today.
What year?
1921.
And it's still being used?
Yeah, that's the 6th edition. The original one was 1810.
Okay, geez. So the 6th edition hasn't changed, though. That's the one that's being used right now.
Right.
Interesting.
But before we had, telephones.
Right.
Any technology.
Interesting. So, yeah, I worry about anything where one can call the followers of it acolytes. It seems like
I used the term. That was me.
Okay. The term acolytes seems automatically negative to me, but
yeah, no. I chose the word intentionally.
So where does that take us up to?
That brings us up to the current practices. Currently, homeopathy is a multi-billion-dollar industry with millions of participants, and some, if not most, insurance companies actually cover homeopathy. So I am covered to go drink water,
right?
But I'm not covered for vision care.
That seems a little off.
Mm-hmm. That being said, every type of woo, there's always going to be millions of practitioners because there's people that just don't like the status quo.
Yep.
Flat Earth is a good example of that.
Right. I find often the medical establishment is overtaxed, overworked, and can not treat patients in the way that they might want to be treated. So if you're not getting that kind of personal attention from your doctor, despite the fact that they are really using evidence-based treatments, they might feel like they need to go somewhere else, a homeopath, for example, where they get to feel good, basically. Even if the treatment doesn't work, they get to go there, feel good when they leave.
That's obviously I don't know because I've never experienced not believing my doctor, or if I have, not just going to a different doctor.
Right. Yeah.
And I can totally see that. Like I can see getting results that you really didn't want to hear and then going for a second opinion from somebody that doesn't have a medical license.
Yeah. But part of the issue, right, is that a lot of these homeopaths are going to quote unquote accredited homeopathic academies or whatever.
Or sometimes it's even doctors that have turned to that field because it's
right. Yeah. Yeah. Like, and the fact that insurance covers it gives it a certain amount of credibility as well. And you get doctors who will say you can go to X naturopath too. And I mean, that's maybe not as common, but it happens.
Well, and there are some alternative medicine things out there that are beneficial. Homeopathy isn't one of them, but there are things that go parallel with real treatment that are beneficial. Like there are certain dietary professionals who actually are trained in the science of nutrition and understand what deficiencies certain illnesses cause.
Right.
And there's also physiotherapists in a lot of these clinics.
Right.
And it's not there to replace your doctor. It's there as a parallel.
I hate to use the word complementary because alternative practitioners use that.
I was trying not to use the word complementary medicine, and it's not medicine.
But that's what physiotherapy is, and that's what nutrition, like real nutritionists are.
Yeah. And they're both scientifically proven.
Right.
Right. That's like physiotherapy is what the chiropractor is supposed to be.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. It's the evidence-based version of that.
Yeah.
They're not cracking backs. They're helping you heal.
Now, that being said, after I'm going to get into debunking a little bit here, but
sure.
At the end of this, we're actually going to get into something that's another main part of this show. It's the takeaway from it, the benefits of what has come from all of this. And I have a huge list that I'm not going to get into of all of the arguments for and debunking all those arguments because there's a lot of them.
So I guess what are some of the central claims of homeopathy?
Oh, just that. So every illness, sicknesses and remedies have almost like a spiritual side to them.
Okay.
And basically, it's every illness can be cured with a complementary dosage of something that causes that illness.
So,
and the more you distill it,
the
more concentrated the effect.
Interesting.
It's the exact opposite of what we use in medicine.
Right.
Because instead of complementary, we use the exact opposite, which is, I lost the word. So instead of something that's parallel, where you're using like to cure like, you're using the opposite to cure the illness.
Okay, yeah.
So when you have a disease, you use, or if you have a viral infection, you use the right antiviral for it, or or antibiotics. It's always antis, not pros.
Right.
As far as debunking, there have been over 1,800 studies that show conclusively that homeopathy doesn't work.
1,800.
Yeah. That's all I put down for debunking. Because there are 1,800 studies.
Right.
I don't need to add to that.
Yeah, no, yeah.
They're all available online. In the show notes. For this show, we're not going to do a lot of show notes. Cory and I were talking about that going forward because it's just a discussion of a single topic every episode. So in the show notes section, we're just going to include all of the links.
Couple references.
The references of where we're getting our information. That way you can do your own due diligence too. There's also arguments for homeopathy. Here.
Okay.
The most common one and the first one was Hippocrates, the father of medicine of ancient Greece, said that there were two laws of healing, the law of opposites and the law of similars. This is where that comes from. Homeopathy treats the patient with medicines using the law of similars. Orthodox medicine uses the law of opposites, like antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, anticonvulsants. Now, this whole argument is a logical fallacy. It's argument from authority or argument from antiquity. It's a straw man argument.
Right.
right?
Yeah, because it's not necessarily that orthodox medicine says the opposite of this will cure your disease.
Right.
They test it, use multiple trials, and try to figure out mechanisms of what is actually causing a thing. Like it's not just the opposite will cure that.
Right. It's just in most situations, it's the antibiotic or the antiviral or the anticonvulsant, which is actually what's doing the work. But,
right.
Another one. Homeopathic theories are based on fixed principles of law of nature, which do not change, unlike medical theories, which are constantly changing.
Right. Based on new evidence.
Yeah. So again, another straw man argument.
Right.
Homeopathy is based on nonsense, and there are no fixed laws of nature.
Right. Yeah. That's an interesting way of looking at it. It's almost like the fact that medicine changes that is a flaw.
Yeah.
Which seems really obviously wrong, right? Like if something adapts based on new information, that would make it more correct and more useful.
Yeah. Well, and this is taken right from this list. That medicine is changing is its strong suit. Ask yourself this. It's not applicable if you are Amish or a homeopath. Is there any part of your life where you would prefer to operate under the concepts and technologies of the mid-1800s?
And the answer should be no.
Yeah. For anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
They say homeopathy is an evidence-based empirical medicine. That's non sequitur, and they're moving the goalpost with it. It's obviously not true.
Okay. Yeah. Like, I guess one would have to examine what are they calling, why are they saying it's empirical? Like, how are they getting to that?
Evidence-based?
Yeah. Like, how are they getting to that? Because with 1800 studies that say the opposite, like it makes you wonder how they're even achieving what they're claiming.
Yeah, well, exactly that. Unfortunately, all the evidence-based empirical data demonstrates that homeopathy is totally useless. They say homeopathy is both an art and a science. No. It's an art, like other works of the imagination. As to science, not so much. Homeopathy denies the applicability of all the basic sciences to homeopathy, especially chemistry and physiology.
Right. And physics.
Yeah, physics. So that's 4 of these fallacious reasonings, and I have a list of 51 of them. The last one's actually one of the funniest.
How many did you?
51.
51.
Yeah.
Wow. Holy shit.
These are all different things that followers have used as reasons why it's good.
Right. Wow.
Number 51 is, I think Ronald Reagan was practicing homeopathy when he said facts are stupid things.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
That's supposed to be in favor of it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Media as a whole has been unwilling to air a defense of the efficacy of homeopathy and the validity of its 250-year-old profession. That's like paranoid straw man. It's a straw man argument.
Right.
And it's also paranoid, saying that the entire media is behind.
Right. Yeah. It's almost conspiratorial, right? I don't know. That one's really,
media is more than willing to perpetuate this kind of crap.
Oh yeah. Right? They do it all the time.
There's so many of these. Indians have a life expectancy 20 years less in the U.S. Cause and effect of homeopathy is practiced nowadays in countries all over the world. In India, there are 100 homeopathic medical schools and around 250,000 doctors. But they live 20 years shorter lives than we do.
Okay.
So it's not helping.
Yeah.
Famous people, Gwyneth Paltrow. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, we're supposed to be kind of not dismissive, right? So Gwyneth Paltrow isn't a doctor. is there much more?
I think that's all we can say about Gwyneth Paltrow.
She's not a scientist or a researcher or a doctor in any sense. So I'm sorry, Gwyneth.
Does she have a degree?
No, I don't think so. I think she's just an actor.
All right. So the takeaway from this whole thing, while homeopathy obviously does not work, it's not all bad.
Okay.
Samuel Hahnemann in 1796 was among the first medical practitioners in 19 centuries to go against popular opinion. And he helped force people to look at alternatives to what was at the time medicine. He did inadvertently further medicine by popularizing a different non-medicine.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because that was also around the time of the beginning of real biochemistry. And people actually looking at things like viruses. And, like we didn't have any of that knowledge at the time, but there were some people that were starting to set the stage. That kind of stuff. So
in a sense, we can thank homeopathy for increasing the research into real medicine?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's a positive takeaway.
I didn't get a chance to go into any of his followers, but I'm sure some of them actually ended up leading research into actual medicine. Right. Yeah, and that's all I got for episode number 2. Do you have anything to add? Any questions? I might not have any answers.
I got nothing. I think it's interesting to think of homeopathy and the way that people move towards it and how they argue for it, because there isn't any real data for it, but then they'll say, oh, but what about this study that I found on PubMed?
Right.
So, I mean, I guess that's kind of the only thing. If we're going to try and convince somebody that homeopathy doesn't work, I wonder how would we do that?
Well, you got to look at history too. 1900 years of using the same panaceas, basically.
Right.
Right. Even though they were being shown that they weren't working, people still use them as medicine, saying that they were the cure for everything.
Right.
This was the first thing introduced after that, or one of the first things introduced after that challenged that. And people are holding on to it as we're progressing with our knowledge of science and stuff.
Right.
People are afraid of knowledge. A lot of times they don't understand sciences.
Yeah.
And it's easier to understand and grasp something as simple as homeopathy, especially since it doesn't make sense. You can't go too deep into thinking about it because there's nowhere to go.
Right. Yeah. Interesting.
All right. Well, that's all I got. Thanks for listening. Again, thanks to Dave Roman for our intro music. Not the intro music where Cory and I were just going, doo, doo, doo. And thanks again to Angela from the Brainstorm podcast for doing our voiceover for the intro.
And I guess if people have comments and criticisms, shoot them our way at mail@brainstormblog.net. And yeah.
Follow us on Facebook. Follow Brainstorm Pod on Twitter.
Yeah, @BrainstormPod. Yeah, all the things.
Yep. This show will get better as we get more used to doing it. I don't know if that's evidence-based if you have been following.
It's maybe a little faith-based.
Because it really hasn't gotten better. Well, the last episode, I think, was the best one.
I'm pretty proud of Brainstorm.
Right on. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Right on.